Every morning, millions of people wake up, turn off the alarm on a $1,000 phone, brew coffee from a machine that costs as much as a used car, and step into a vehicle financed over 72 months to drive to a job they merely tolerate. They are doing exactly what the economy requires them to do. They are consuming. But somewhere in that same city, there is a small, quiet group of people playing a completely different game. You wouldn't know it by looking at them. They aren't driving louder cars. They aren't wearing heavier watches. They are the financially independent. And the gap between them and everyone else isn't just about how much money they make. It is about a fundamental refusal to participate in the daily habits that keep the middle class on a treadmill. Right now, the system is perfectly engineered to separate you from your money. Since the 1980s, real wages have remained largely stagnant, while the cost of housing, education, and healthcare has exploded. To bridge that gap, we were sold a culture of credit and convenience. Inflation acts as a silent tax on your savings, while algorithms are precision-tuned to trigger impulse purchases. The modern economy thrives on your impatience. It demands that you convert your time into cash and then immediately convert that cash back into temporary comfort. But when you study people who have actually bought back their freedom, you notice something strange. It is not what they do every day that makes them wealthy. It is what they stopped doing. There are 7 specific behaviors they abandoned, and the math behind why they stopped is deeply uncomfortable. First, they stopped treating debt as a monthly payment. The financial industry has pulled off a brilliant psychological trick. Over the last 50 years, they shifted our focus from the actual cost of an item to the cost of carrying it. When most people want a car, they sit across from a dealer and ask, "What is the monthly payment?" The financially independent ask, "What is the total life cycle cost, including the opportunity cost?" If you finance a $40,000 car at 8% over 6 years, you're not just paying $48,000. You are surrendering the compounding power of that capital. That same $700 monthly payment, inverted and invested in a broad index fund over those same 6 years, wouldn't just buy the car. It would buy the car and leave you with a down payment on a rental property. The wealthy stopped looking at consumer debt as a tool to smooth out their lifestyle. They see it for what it actually is, a tax on their future time. Second, they stopped outsourcing minor friction. Over the last decade, an entire sector of the economy was built on a single premise: you are too busy to do things yourself. Food delivery, grocery delivery, premium subscriptions that save you 3 minutes. We are told this is buying back our time, but let's look at the math. Paying a 30% premium to have a burrito delivered to your door doesn't buy you time because the 20 minutes you saved is rarely deployed into a high-yield activity. It is usually deployed into staring at a screen. The financially independent stopped bleeding capital by paying a premium for a slight reduction in daily friction. They realized that modern convenience is the ultimate invisible drain on compounding wealth. Third, they stopped confusing a high salary with actual wealth. This is the trap that catches doctors, lawyers, and senior engineers. Society tells us that earning $250,000 a year makes you rich. The tax code violently disagrees. A high W-2 salary is the most heavily taxed form of income on the planet. By the time federal, state, and payroll taxes take their cut, the high earner is left with a fraction of their labor. The wealthy stopped viewing their salary as the end game. They view it strictly as a seed capital generator. The only goal is to take that highly taxed active income and aggressively convert it into assets that produce passively taxed or tax-free cash flow. They stopped tying their ego to their paycheck because a paycheck can be turned off with a single email from human resources. Fourth, they stopped upgrading their default settings.
There is a powerful gravitational pull in human nature. When you get a raise, your lifestyle naturally expands to absorb it. You move from the standard apartment to the luxury building. You fly premium instead of economy. Your baseline resets. The financially independent did something unnatural. They severed the link between their income and their consumption. They locked their baseline lifestyle in place while their income grew. The delta between those two lines, the widening gap between what they earn and what they spend, is the only mechanical force that creates true wealth. Most people spend their entire lives trying to raise their standard of living. The wealthy spend their early years aggressively defending a lower standard of living so they can permanently fund it later. Fifth, they stopped consuming financial entertainment. Turn on any financial news network. It's a parade of blinking red lights, breaking news alerts, and analysts screaming about the next market collapse. It is carefully designed to make you feel like you need to act. Buy this, sell that, trade the news. The financially independent stopped playing the yield chaser. They know that Wall Street makes its money on transactions, while investors make their money on patience. The data is brutal. Over a 20-year timeline, fewer than 10% of highly paid, actively managed funds managed to beat the simple S&P 500. So the wealthy stopped trying to beat the market. They automated their capital into boring, broad market index funds, and then they went outside. They treat investing not as a casino, but as a slow, inevitable math equation. They stopped checking their portfolio every day because the market rewards those who can sit quietly and do absolutely nothing. Sixth, they stopped obsessing over the friction of saving and focused on the velocity of earning. There is an entire subculture of personal finance dedicated to clipping coupons, skipping lattes, and reusing Ziploc bags. It's a scarcity mindset dressed up as responsibility. The truth is, you cannot shrink your way to wealth. There is a mathematical floor to how much you can cut your expenses. You can only cut them to zero, but there is no ceiling to how much you can earn. The financially independent stopped spending 40 hours a week trying to save $40. They took that exact same mental bandwidth and applied it to acquiring a high-income skill, buying a cash-flowing asset, or scaling a business. They know that a 10% increase in a high income will mathematically crush a 10% reduction in a tight budget every single time. And seventh, they stopped renting status. Look around any affluent suburb. You'll see driveways filled with rapidly depreciating metal and wrists heavy with Swiss engineering. We have been heavily conditioned to believe that this is what success looks like. But this isn't wealth. This is the visual performance of wealth. The financially independent stopped caring about looking rich, because to look rich, you have to spend the exact money that would actually make you rich. They realized that true status isn't a brand name. True status is waking up on a Tuesday morning and realizing that no one on earth can tell you what to do today. It is complete autonomy, and autonomy is the most expensive luxury item in the world. You cannot buy it on credit. You can only buy it with compounding capital. We live in an era of unprecedented financial hype. You're one click away from someone telling you how to leverage crypto options to buy a supercar. The mainstream narrative tells you to hustle harder, leverage up, treat yourself, and manifest millions. But the reality of wealth creation is starkly different. It is aggressively boring. It is a quiet refusal to play the game that the consumer economy desperately needs you to play. And here's the uncomfortable truth about all of this. If everyone suddenly woke up tomorrow and adopted these 7 habits, if everyone stopped buying things they couldn't afford to impress people they didn't even like, the global economy would stall. Roughly 70% of the gross domestic product is driven by consumer spending. Our entire financial system requires the middle class to remain exactly where they are. It requires you to be slightly stressed, heavily indebted, and entirely reliant on a bi-weekly paycheck just to keep the lights on. It needs you to view your own freedom as a luxury you can't quite afford yet. You're told that wealth is about getting more things, but the people who actually achieved it know the opposite is true. Wealth is simply the process of requiring less from the machine until you don't need the machine at all. The system is designed to keep you on the treadmill. The math is completely transparent. The habits are known. The only question left is whose game are you playing today?